My name's Jared Hirsch. I'm the writer and director behind The Death of Therapy. We're screening in the comedy showcase at Raindance. And yeah, my film is about a down on her luck, out of work therapist who decides to sabotage an ex-patient in order to draw him back into therapy. It's kind of set in a world where happiness is on the rise. It's kind of at an all-time high, so therapists are going out of work. And she's looking to somehow continue her livelihood, and she goes to pretty extreme measures to do so. So yeah, it's a fun one, a little spooky, it's a dark comedy. Funny, it's actually, our film is usually the lightest of those, and now we're in a comedy segment where ours is kind of the darkest by far.
Were you surprised?
I was a little bit surprised. I mean, our film is, when we're amongst all horror films, it actually plays more like a comedy. And now that it's amongst comedies, it actually plays more like a horror. So it's kind of interesting how... Yeah, well, it's a little bit in between, but it's also interesting how whatever surrounds it kind of influences the way that it reads to an audience,
What inspired you to make this film?
This was an idea that had just kind of been spiraling in my head for a while. I think it was maybe a worst case scenario nightmare of mine of what if my therapist, who knows everything about me, decided she hates me and she wants to fuck with me. And I just thought, oh, this is an interesting idea for a film. And I like the idea of a character, a therapist who takes care of other people all the time and gives, and people come, they dump their problems on her, and she's maybe not so good at taking care of herself. And what happens when she eventually kind of loses it and breaks. And so it's about someone who is good at taking care of others, not so good at taking care of herself, and about how that can be a very dangerous person if they snap.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite a classic thing that therapists are probably more trouble than their clients.
Yeah, 100%. And they tend to that tends to be the case. You hear there's a lot of stories of therapists who are, their office is really put together, and the way that they talk to their clients is really supportive, but they don't really afford that same politeness and good nature to themselves. Their house may be, decrepit compared to their office, and so I was kind of curious about a character like that. The script, I kind of had started with this idea of using a tape recorder and the tapes of a patient's sessions to then narrate this therapist breaking into his house and using all of the little minute details, her intimate knowledge of him, to be able to sabotage his life. And so she's using these things that she gained in sessions in order to really break him down. And I really started out with that segment, that idea. And I kind of just built it out from there. That's how the character existed, or the character developed. And then also I had this idea of a sleep paralysis demon. The idea that some people who have sleep paralysis end up seeing, some people say it's like an old hag or a witch that sits on their chest when they sleep and they can't move. And so I was like, oh, that would be so interesting if she dressed up as the sleep paralysis demon of one of her patients. And I thought it was kind of funny, a little cartoonish and sort of spooky. So I always knew I wanted to make a film that had something to do with that. And yeah, it kind of just all came together, and that's how the script came to be.
How did you get inspired?
How did I get inspired? I mean, a lot of it was just thinking of a worst case scenario. I kind of thought of what's the worst possible thing that could have happened to someone, and then gave it a sense of humor. I also just watched a lot of movies that had kind of straddled that line of comedy and horror. There was a lot of, I wanted it to be fun too, so I watched a lot of Addams Family and Tim Burton movies that are really good at being dark, but also kind of feeling fun at the same time.
How did you find your actors, and what were you looking for?
Yeah, so it's funny, initially we were looking for a maybe 40 to 50-year-old therapist, maybe later in her career, not necessarily at the start. The idea was that this is someone who's maybe a little fed up at this point and is really, losing her patients, as she quite literally is losing all of her clients, her patients. And when we were actually casting, we found someone who was probably looked more like in her 20s, but she just felt so right. She felt like as soon as you saw her read the tape or read the scenes, you were like, oh my God, I think that's her. Even though it didn't really fit with the character description and how old we wanted her to be, we ended up just kind of shifting it and saying, you know what, it's okay that this is someone who's more at the beginning of their career, because when you find someone that feels right, I think you just don't question that, and you make adjustments to make that work.
Did she bring things that you didn't think of?
Yeah, definitely. So she kind of, I think, had more of a background as a comedy actor, and her instinct was actually to go a little bit larger with all the scenes, and I liked that because I could always reel her back. And I think it was the combo of me trying to not let her go fully to the extreme, but occasionally letting that through. That was really nice. And I tend to like working with comedy actors because they're better at, if you need them to get larger, that's easier than trying to take someone if you need to bring the performance down, that feels easier than taking someone who always starts at a lower volume and trying to raise them up. So they're great to work with. And the other two actors as well, it's Kelly Grago, she's the main, Steve Robertson, and Charlie McElveen. They also are really great at comedy, so I felt the same way about them as well. I mean, it was a blast, and as always, the cast really makes the film, and that was definitely true here. You know, there's a lot of comedies that don't necessarily care too much about the way they look. It's more about just capturing the performance, letting the actors act, and you know, just letting it kind of find the style in the edit. I really like going into a film with a really strong sense of visual style. And so the way that we did that was we actually shot the movie beforehand as a test scenes, as we basically shot every scene on an iPhone, and that way you know what's going to work or not work when you actually show up on the day of to shoot. And so you're not just guessing, and that way you know, okay, this shot goes with this shot very well, and oh, this didn't work so much, we're going to adjust that, rather than just showing up the day of and saying, oh, I hope this cuts together. And that really helps you have a really strong visual language, and really communicating that with having a strong coordination with the director and the DP, as opposed to just, some directors just allow their DP to just, hey, you know, you figure it out. Yeah. Make it look good. I really like to be in close coordination with the director of photography. That way, it just all feels so much more intentional.
Yeah. And the music, what did you go for?
Yeah, so music, I mean, we were definitely inspired by a little bit of, you know, the works of Ennio Morricone, he has kind of a really severe strings kind of section that he always returns to. We were inspired by the music from The Thing, the music from Death Becomes Her, very heavy, dramatic, striking strings that kind of also have a little bit of a sense of humor to them, a little bit of a campiness. And then, yeah, and actually the majority of the music throughout the film is all very severe like that. And then the last scene has this kind of slower, more upbeat, almost jazz music that I really liked contrasting, because without a spoiler, the ending is just a tight contrast, an intense contrast to the vibe of the rest of the film. So I like just going in a totally opposite direction just for the end scene and the end credits. The sound design's honestly one of my favorite parts of editing. I think that a lot of, you know, I work as an editor as well, so I deal with sound design day in, day out. And so I'm kind of thinking of that even before we are shooting. To me, that's part of almost the writing, is to thinking about not only how will this look, but how will this sound. So when I'm doing my rough cut, I'm doing a pass of sound design, so that when I come to my sound designer, sound mixer, we already have a bed. We're not just working from nothing. Yeah. And so then, yeah, me and my sound designer, Glenn Ionaro, we just really get to sit there and have fun with it. And it's not like he's just coming in having to totally just find something on his own. It's like we're working together. And that's the same way I kind of like to work with all the department heads, from the cinematographer to the music to production design and sound design.
Is there anything in particular with the sound design that you wanted to
I wanted it to feel almost oppressive in a way, where I wanted the film to really feel like it's super subjective, like it's really from the perspective of the main character. I wanted it, because kind of what she's doing is a pretty dark, kind of messed up thing, so I wanted the people who are watching the film to really feel like we're there with her, rather than just looking at it going like, she's really messed up. And people might still feel that way, but I at least want to give people an idea of this is how she feels. So the sound design is really reflective of, you know, her inner emotional state, and I wanted that to come across.
How did you do it?
A lot of you know, accentuating the, you know, there's a storm outside, making that storm feel like it's happening in her head, having it all tighter, having it really close, having it a little overwhelming at times, and kind of just having an uneasy sort of not drone, but a little hum that kind of happens throughout, that just puts us a little on edge, and just lets us know something maybe twisted or something wrong is on its way.
Yeah.
Rather than maybe if that wasn't there, people wouldn't be
way.
expecting that quite as much. Yeah.
Okay. And the editing.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about your process?
Yeah, so I mean, the editing is another thing that like I think I like to do almost before we start shooting. You know, so when we make test scenes for the movie, we do a full edit of the film. I have the film already shot basically, just with an iPhone, and that way the editing is makes it a little bit easier because, you know, on a short film, especially on a low budget, we don't have time to do, or time or resources to do too many reshoots. So we kind of need to get it right the first time we do it. So the way we do it is we shoot it beforehand as a test scene. So then that way the actual shoot itself feels like a reshoot. But yeah, I worked with my co-editor who I've also directed with in the past, and he's a great editor. His name is Nelson Vicens. He has a great sense of energy, and the combination of both of our voices kind of comes together, and we have different tastes, but in a way that kind of ends up meshing really well. And we both know that when we both land on the same take, we know that's the one. Sometimes we'll argue about it, but for the most part, we tend to get there, and we tend to find the takes that we both kind of love the most.
What's the main message in your film?
Oh man, that's a good question. I guess the message is it's about someone searching for purpose, and someone who deeply needs a purpose, and as it then disappears, she kind of just loses it a little bit. And it's about the importance of having something to sink your teeth into. And this is maybe a bad example of that. It's an example of someone picking the wrong thing to sink your teeth into, but it's about what do you do when people don't need you anymore? And sometimes you turn to something good, sometimes you turn to something dark and mischievous, and that's what she does in our story. And I hope that it comes off as a little spooky, a little funny, and overall a interesting thing to watch. Yeah.
Amazing. And is there anything else you'd like to say?
I'd like to say, go give it a watch. But maybe if you have never seen a therapist, or if you're thinking about seeing a therapist, maybe hold off a little bit because it might scare you. I'm not telling you not to get a therapist. I think they're great. This is just kind of a little bit of a flip side of that. Just an imagining of the worst of. But
alternative.
I love therapists. I say that. I don't hate them, okay? So don't cancel me.
They're helpful.
Exactly. Yeah, totally.